You can connect the dots there, if you will.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I decided to go out at 6 tonight because I had a bad night last night. Pushing too many buttons on my phone, and I ended up locking my phone last night. So I was up all night last night figuring it out. And then this morning around 10 o'clock, when T-Mobile office was open, he got it going again. Just pushing too many buttons, like always. So I'll be up another late night tonight with all the games. So I'm gonna got a lot of short ones. Hey Paul, yep, it's hard. And Lucy, yeah, that I wanted to play that, I couldn't, but that guy's good. If you get any short videos on him, you can send it. All right, if you're watching him, that I played him before, I think. So tomorrow will be probably the same time because Michigan's playing at 12 tomorrow. So I'll do an evening one tomorrow night at 6. See what else. So on Fox tonight, just about an hour ago, they showed. I can't believe we haven't seen no arrests, and they're putting out all the evidence on Fox on Obama. Over 200 dead people was receiving food stamps, like 28 states, and 21 of them are suing them. But if they got the evidence, how come they're not arresting them? I don't understand that. You know, it was totally fraud, big time. People getting the food stamps when they're dead. I don't know. But if I already had new time tonight, get my phone fixed. And so what is going on with Fetterman, Lucy? Isn't he your governor? Is he? Did they say he's gonna make it 3 okay? I got a couple clips on him. Oh jeez. It's deer time. The deer's out there. How many times do you gotta do that, Chico? You don't need to jump and bark. And then the other one, did you guys hear about? I can't pronounce her name right, but Trump's. Okay, so her. And Trump's lawyer, I guess someone had it bad or something. I got a 3-minute clip I'm going to play on that. We're going to do a lot of short ones the first hour, then the second hour we'll get, I think Cash came out with 2 of them today, I think. So we got a good lineup. If I don't fall asleep during the show, I got my Coke, eh? I'm drinking. Chico's wanting food all the time. Where is Kimberly at, you guys? That's kind of odd that Kimberly hasn't been in a while. Oh, okay, Lucy. Hang on a second. What do you want? Huh? What? What do you want? I don't trust you with that window open when the deer's out there, buddy. Oh, he passed out? Okay. Well, Carol. Okay, Carol. Did Bill Bean come out today, Carol? Okay. And all right, let's get I'm gonna play this 4-parter. I can't remember if we play it or not. It's only about they're about 3 minutes of video. So I'll go ahead and log in. Yeah. 430. Okay, I'm logged in.
Planet owes 315 trillion, 3 times the size of the global economy. But here's the paradox that should terrify
Hey
you.
Jay, I
If
have
everyone
your
owes
time
money,
tonight.
who exactly is owed?
My
The
phone
answer
was
isn't what you
blocked.
think. Because when you follow the chain of creditors, when you track who actually holds the debt,
I was up all
you discover
night
something
last
disturbing.
night.
The world doesn't owe money to anyone in particular. It owes money to itself. But 4 bankers across 3 centuries, designed it that way, deliberately. They built a system where debt can never be
And
repaid, where
Dragonfly
governments
we haven't
borrow
seen in a
forever,
while.
where interest flows eternally upward, and where the people who designed the trap profit from every payment, every crisis, every bailout. This isn't conspiracy. This is documented history. The meetings happened, the contracts exist, the mechanisms are public record. And once you see how they built it, you'll understand why 38 trillion isn't a problem to be solved. It's the system working exactly as designed. Let me show you the 4 architects, the 4 moments when the debt trap was engineered, and why every government on earth is now caught inside it with no way out. Before 1694, kings borrowed money the old way. They'd go to merchants or nobles, promise repayment with interest, and if they couldn't pay, they'd default. Creditors lost money, kings borrowed from someone else. It was risky for lenders and embarrassing for kings, but it was contained. Debt was temporary, either repaid or defaulted. The system cleared. William Paterson changed everything. He was a Scottish merchant and financial schemer who tried and failed multiple times to get rich. In 1691, he had an idea that would reshape civilization.
4.5 on
England was
this
at war
one.
with France. King William III needed money desperately. The treasury was empty. Tax revenue couldn't cover war costs. And traditional lenders were refusing new loans because England had defaulted before. Paterson approached the king with a proposal. He would organize a group of wealthy merchants to lend the government £1.2 million. That's about 300 million in today's money, a massive sum. But here's the innovation. The loan would never be repaid. Instead, the government would pay interest forever, 8% annually. And to manage this arrangement, Paterson proposed creating a new institution, the Bank of England. The mechanics were revolutionary. The merchant lenders would give their gold to the Bank of England. The bank would lend it to the government. The government would pay interest annually from tax revenue. And the bank would pay that interest to the merchant lenders. But here's the critical detail. The government wouldn't repay the principal, ever. The loan was permanent. Why would merchants accept this? Because the interest payment was guaranteed by Parliament. It was backed by the government's taxing power. As long as England could tax its citizens, the interest would flow. And the banknotes the lenders received in exchange for their gold could be traded. They were as good as money, better than money, because they paid interest. Parliament approved Paterson's scheme in 1694. The Bank of England was chartered. The merchants provided their gold. The government got its war funding. And for the first time in history, national debt became permanent. Not a problem to solve, a feature of the system. And here's what nobody explains about why this was brilliant for the bankers. The government paid 8% interest annually on £1.2 million.
Okay, there's 4 parts.
That's £96,000 per year, forever. The merchants had essentially bought an annuity from the government. As long as England existed, as long as it could tax, the money flowed. And if they wanted their gold back, they could sell the banknotes to someone else. The debt was transferable but never repayable. But Paterson's real genius was what came next. The Bank of England was given the right to issue banknotes backed by the government's debt. They could print paper money up to the value of the loan. This created money out of debt. The government's IOU became currency. And the more the government borrowed, the more money could be created. This is the template. Government borrows, never repays principal, pays interest forever. And the debt itself becomes money. It's brilliant if you're a banker, catastrophic if you're a taxpayer, because you're paying interest on debt that will never disappear. Within 50 years, every major European power copied the model. France created the Banque Générale. The Netherlands already had sophisticated banking, but formalized government debt issuance. And by 1790, the newly independent United States adopted the same system. Alexander Hamilton, who we talked about before, explicitly modeled America's financial system on the Bank of England: permanent debt, interest paid from taxes, bonds traded as currency. Paterson died in 1719, not particularly wealthy, despite creating the Bank of England. But the system he built persists 331 years later. The Bank of England still exists. British government debt has never been paid off. It's been refinanced, rolled over, and expanded, but never eliminated. The debt trap was set in 1694, and every government since has walked into it willingly.
Okay, that was part 1.
There was no organized market. Each loan was negotiated individually.
This one is
Interest rates
6.5.
varied wildly, and only the wealthiest merchants could participate. Nathan Rothschild changed that. He industrialized sovereign debt. The Rothschild family started as money changers and traders in Frankfurt. By 1800, the 5 Rothschild brothers had established banking houses in 5 major European cities: London, Paris, Frankfurt, Vienna, Naples. This network was unprecedented. They could move money across borders faster than anyone else, and they used this to dominate sovereign debt issuance. Nathan Rothschild in London was the strategic genius. During the Napoleonic Wars, Nathan arranged loans for Britain, but his innovation was how he structured them. Instead of lending directly to the government, he bought government bonds at a discount and resold them to investors at a markup. He created a secondary market. Government needed money. Rothschild provided it immediately. Then he sold the bonds to pension funds, insurance companies, and wealthy individuals. The government got its money fast. Rothschild collected the spread, and investors got a tradable asset. But here's where it gets darker. Rothschild didn't just finance governments. He positioned himself so governments had no choice but to use him. In 1815, at the Battle of Waterloo, Nathan Rothschild famously learned of Napoleon's defeat before anyone else in London. His courier network was faster than official channels. He used this information to manipulate the bond market. First, He sold British bonds, signaling that Britain was losing. Prices collapsed. Other investors panicked and sold. Then, after prices crashed, Rothschild bought massive quantities at rock-bottom prices. When news of British victory arrived the next day, bond prices surged. Rothschild made millions, not from insider trading as we'd call it today, but from controlling information and market timing. This established the Rothschild model. Control the information, control the issuance, control the market. By 1820, the Rothschilds dominated European sovereign debt. If a government needed to borrow, they went through the Rothschilds, because the Rothschilds controlled the investor network. They had the distribution, and they set the terms. Here's why this matters for the debt trap. Before Rothschild, governments could theoretically refuse to pay. If a king defaulted, his creditors lost money and the system reset. But Rothschild made sovereign debt tradable across borders. A British bond might be owned by a French investor who sold it to a German bank who used it as collateral for a loan to an Austrian aristocrat. The web of ownership became so complex that defaulting wasn't just refusing one creditor. It was collapsing an entire international financial network. This is the Rothschild innovation. Make debt so interconnected that default becomes impossible. Not because governments are responsible, because default would trigger systemic collapse. Governments became trapped. They had to keep paying, and they had to keep borrowing to pay the interest on old debts. The debt trap was no longer just permanent. It was inescapable. The Rothschild family wealth peaked in the mid-1800s. They were the richest family in the world, richer than any king. And that wealth came from one source, interest on sovereign debt. They didn't produce anything, didn't build anything. They lent money to governments and collected interest forever. The system Patterson created in 1694, Rothschild industrialized by 1815, and every government in Europe was caught. By 1900, America was becoming an economic powerhouse, but it still had a primitive financial system. Banks operated independently. Money supply was tied to gold, and there was no central mechanism to manage debt. J.P. Morgan fixed that, not for the public good, to protect his banking empire. In 1907, there was a financial panic. Stock prices crashed, banks failed, and the economy seized up. J.P. Morgan personally organized a bailout. He gathered the major New York bankers in his library, locked the doors, and forced them to pledge their own money to stabilize failing banks. It worked. The panic ended, and Morgan became the de facto central banker of America. But he was 70 years old. He knew he couldn't do it again. So Morgan and his associates, the most powerful bankers in America, designed a permanent solution. They needed a central bank. But Americans hated central banks. The first and second banks of the United States had been shut down by populist opposition. So Morgan's group disguised it. In 1910, Morgan's associates, including Senator Nelson Aldrich and representatives from the largest banks, held a secret meeting on Jekyll Island, Georgia. For 9 days, they designed the structure of what would become the Federal Reserve System. The meetings were secret because they knew if the public found out that bankers were designing the nation as a monetary system, there would be riots. The plan was brilliant political manipulation. The Federal Reserve wouldn't be called a central bank. It would be called a Federal Reserve System. It wouldn't be one institution. It would be 12 regional banks. It wouldn't be controlled by Wall Street. It would be overseen by a board of governors appointed by the president. It looked decentralized, democratic, public. But the structure ensured banker control. The regional Federal Reserve banks were privately owned by member banks. Those banks elected the boards of the regional feds, and the regional feds elected the Federal Reserve Board. The government appointed some members, but the bankers controlled the system. And the most important power, the power to create money and buy government bonds, was given to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, which was controlled by the largest Wall Street banks, Morgan's banks. The Federal Reserve Act passed Congress in December 1913, largely because most representatives didn't understand what they were voting for. And immediately, the debt trap expanded. Now, the government didn't just borrow from banks. It borrowed from the Federal Reserve, which could create money to buy bonds. Unlimited demand for government debt. Here's why this matters. Before the Federal Reserve, there was a limit to how much the government could borrow. Banks only had so much money to lend, but the Federal Reserve could create money by purchasing government bonds. The government issues a bond. The Fed buys it with newly created money. The government spends the money. And the debt goes on the Fed's balance sheet, backed by nothing but the promise that taxpayers will service it forever. This is the mechanism that enables infinite debt. The Federal Reserve ensures there's always a buyer for government bonds, always demand. So the government never has to stop borrowing. It can roll over debt forever because the Fed will always buy it. And the interest payments flow from taxpayers to the banks that own the Federal Reserve System. Morgan died in 1913, the same year the Federal Reserve was created. But his legacy is the structure that makes the current $38 trillion in US debt possible. Without the Federal Reserve, the government couldn't borrow at this scale. The market wouldn't support it. But with the Fed as a guaranteed buyer, there's no limit. The debt trap became infinite.
Okay, part 2. I got part 3, but I can't find part 4. What do you guys think so far?
Were different. They borrowed for infrastructure, and many
4
couldn't keep
minutes.
up payments.
Flying
The debt trap was
Eagle.
reaching its limits until Paul Volcker made it permanent. Volcker was Federal Reserve Chairman from 1979 to 1987, and he faced a problem. Inflation was over 10%. U.S. credibility was eroding. Foreign governments were losing faith in the dollar. He needed to stop inflation, even if it meant causing a recession. So in 1979, Volcker raised interest rates dramatically. The federal funds rate went from 11% to 20%, the highest in American history. This crushed inflation. But it had another effect. Developing nations had borrowed billions in dollars during the 1970s when rates were low. Now those loans were due, and the interest rates had tripled. Mexico owed $80 billion, Brazil $60 billion, Argentina $40 billion, and they couldn't pay. The interest alone exceeded their export revenues. In August 1982, Mexico announced it couldn't make payments. Default. This should have triggered global financial collapse. American banks had lent most of that money. If Mexico defaulted, Citibank, Bank of America, Chase Manhattan, all would take massive losses. Some might fail. The entire banking system was at risk. Volcker could have let it happen. Let the banks take losses. Let the market clear. But he didn't. Instead, he orchestrated a bailout through the International Monetary Fund. The IMF would lend Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, and others enough money to keep making interest payments to American banks. The loans were called structural adjustment loans, and they came with conditions. The conditions were brutal. Governments had to cut spending, privatize state assets, open markets to foreign investment, devalue currencies, basically dismantle their economic sovereignty in exchange for the money to keep paying interest. And here's the key. The IMF loans didn't reduce debt. They just rolled it over, made it manageable, but permanent. This is the Volcker innovation. When debt becomes unpayable, don't forgive it, restructure it, lend enough to keep interest payments flowing, and extract political and economic concessions in exchange. The debt trap became a tool of control. Countries that couldn't pay were forced to open their economies, sell their assets, and submit to foreign economic policy in exchange for the privilege of staying in debt. This pattern has repeated for 40 years. Greece in 2010, Argentina in 2001, Sri Lanka in 2022, every time the same structure. IMF loans to keep paying interest, austerity imposed, sovereignty surrendered. And the debt never eliminated, just restructured, made perpetual. Volcker died in 2019. But his legacy is the mechanism that ensures the debt trap is global and inescapable. Even when countries can't pay, they're not allowed to default. They're refinanced into permanent indebtedness. And the interest keeps flowing to the creditors, the same banks, the same institutions, the same system Patterson created in 1694. Now let me show you how these four architects built a system where debt is infinite and escape is impossible. Start with Patterson's model. Government borrows, interest forever, never repays principal. Add Rothschild's innovation, make the debt tradable globally. So it's not one creditor, it's a web. Default collapses the system. Add Morgan's mechanism. Central banks create money to buy government bonds. Unlimited demand. Government can always borrow more. Add Volcker's trap. When countries can't pay, restructure, don't forgive, keep the interest flowing. The result is what we have today. 315 trillion in global debt. Government debt, corporate debt, household debt. None of it will ever be repaid. All of it pays interest. And all of it is connected through the financial system. So default anywhere threatens collapse everywhere. Here's the specific mechanism. The US government issues 38 trillion in debt. Who owns it? About 20 trillion is owned by the American public. Pension funds, mutual funds.
Okay. The final part, 4 minutes or before. Not sure how long this one is. It's 4 minutes.
But those bonds pay interest, about 1 trillion per year now. That interest comes from taxes, so taxpayers send money to the government. The government sends it to bondholders. The bondholders are mostly institutions owned by the wealthy. It's a transfer from workers to capital, every year, forever. The other 18 trillion is owed to the government itself. Social Security Trust Fund, Medicare Trust Fund. The government borrowed from these programs and spent the money. Now it owes itself. but ultimately, taxpayers owe. Because when Social Security needs to redeem those bonds, the government has to raise taxes or borrow more to pay. It's a shell game, but the interest flows regardless. Now scale it globally. Japan owes $9 trillion, mostly to Japanese institutions and the Bank of Japan. Europe owes $14 trillion, mostly to European banks and the ECB. China owes significant domestic debt held by state banks. Every country is running the same system, and they're all interconnected. Japan holds US treasuries. The US holds European bonds through the IMF. Europe holds developing nation debt through the World Bank. It's circular. Everyone owes everyone. And the interest flows upward to the institutions that manage the debt. Here's why this can never end. If the US paid off its $38 trillion, the money supply would collapse. Because dollars are created when the government borrows, if it paid off the debt, those dollars would disappear. Deflation, depression, economic collapse. So the government can never pay it off. It has to keep borrowing, keep rolling it over, and keep paying interest. The same is true globally. If every government paid off its debt, the global money supply would shrink by 2/3. There wouldn't be enough money to conduct trade. The system would seize. So debt can't be eliminated. It's structural, necessary, by design. And here's who profits: the institutions that hold the debt. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, Fidelity. These asset managers control tens of trillions. They buy government bonds with other people's money, pension funds, retirement accounts, insurance premiums, and they collect the interest, about $1 trillion per year from US debt alone, plus interest from Japan, Europe, everywhere. That trillion per year in interest payments flows from taxpayers to bondholders. It's the largest wealth transfer in history, continuous, structural, and invisible to most people, because it's not called a tax, it's called debt service, but it's the same mechanism. Workers pay, institutions collect, and the debt never decreases. Now, here's the final piece. The four architects didn't conspire together. They lived in different centuries, but they each solved a problem in a way that benefited bankers, and each solution built on the previous one. Patterson made debt permanent in 1694. Rothschild made it global in 1815. Morgan made it infinite in 1913. Volcker made it inescapable in 1982. Together, they built a system where governments borrow forever and pay interest eternally. And the people who control the bonds, who manage the debt, who collect the interest, they're the ultimate beneficiaries. Not governments, not taxpayers, the financial institutions. And here's the final truth. $38 trillion isn't a crisis for them. It's a business model. Every dollar of debt is an asset on someone's balance sheet. It pays interest. It provides collateral for more borrowing. And as long as confidence holds, as long as people believe the government will pay interest even if it never repays principal, the system functions. The debt trap is complete. An escape isn't possible, not without collapsing the entire financial system. 4 architects, 3 centuries, 1 system. And everyone on Earth is now caught inside it. If this changed how you see government debt, if you finally understand that $38 trillion is not an accident or mistake, but a system working exactly as designed, then you're starting to see how power actually works. Subscribe if you want to understand how the machine was built and who.
So, how was that, you guys? Was that an important 4-parter? Shoot.
Size beverage and add a favorite, like a donut.
The Justice Department looking for an unnamed suspect accused of ransacking acting U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey, Alina Habba's office on Wednesday night.
Shanley Painter here with all the details. Shanley.
Hey guys, so acting U.S. Attorney in New Jersey, Alina Habba, says despite the alleged attack, she is undeterred in her work. She posted this on X, quote, "I will not be intimidated by radical lunatics for doing my job." Authorities are seeking a man who brought a bat to Habba's Newark, New Jersey office, which is also the home of a federal immigration court. The New York Times reporting that the man was barred by security from entering with the bat, and when he returned without it, he was allowed to enter. Then he proceeded to the floor where Habba's office is located and began screaming incoherently. In a social media post, Attorney General Pam Bondi confirmed the individual destroyed property in Habba's office before he fled the scene and said Habba was not harmed, but she vowed to find the suspect and bring him to justice.
What we can say is we are finding these people, we are arresting them, and we are charging them. They will go to prison for as long as we can send them.
Lori,
We know who did this
I
to
started
Alina
at 6
Habba.
tonight.
I saw the
My
video.
phone was
It's
off
chilling. This guy had a full-size
last night.
baseball bat pacing like a caged animal in front of her office. Then ultimately he gets up to her office without the bat, but manages to tear apart the front office. And he, mark my words, he will be in jail and he will be prosecuted.
Well, we've also heard from the FBI Director Kash Patel, who says his agency will lead the hunt against all who threaten public servants like Habba, and that his agency has zero tolerance for acts of violence. Guys,
more to come. All right, Shanley Painter live for us. Shanley, thank you.
Okay. I think, is it Alina Habba? I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. KK, I see the time on her videos now.
Every single time I make a video,
4 minutes.
you are all in my comment section with your bullshit. You want to know how much TikTok paid me since I'm doing it for the clicks and my big social media account on here? I got paid $70 last month from TikTok. So if you think this is how I'm making my money in life, babes, I don't know what to tell you. It ain't from this, okay? So you're wrong as usual because you're usually wrong as usual. But you are coming into a comment section where I'm having a conversation with another Democrat who are actually really kind to each other, and we're actually friends, and we have great conversations back and forth. You, my dear, are the kind of people that I don't want to even be bothered with, because you're the kind of person that just sees party line and you don't want to have conversations. You just want to impose your way or the highway onto everyone. It's either you think like me, walk like me, talk like me, support the same things that I do, or else. And I don't got time for people like you, because you're not interested in having a conversation. You're interested in bulldozing through the conversation. And we don't do that over here on this side of the aisle. Michelle and I talk all the time. We don't always agree on things, but that's what you do when you're an adult and you can have adult conversations without all this fucking drama. I critique Trump all the time, babes. Just because you don't like the things that I critique about him doesn't mean that I don't critique Trump. Do I think Donald Trump is perfect? Nope. And since you're constantly up my ass in my comment section on every video, you would know that I have said that I don't think he's a perfect man, and I have known that he has made many mistakes. But you don't want to hear that, of course. Like I said, you want to hear what you want to hear, and that's it. Okay? So what are we at now today? Spewing my bullshit lies. Now she's defending Trump, knowing damn well he was part of the whole Epstein Island shit. Prove it. Prove it. Prove he was on Epstein's Island and abused young women on that island. You can't. Neither can the Democrat Party. That's why he's not sitting in a fucking jail cell right now. And the latest batch of emails that you guys are running around going, we got him this time, is a big fat nothing burger again. Trump is many things, my dear. He can be a narcissistic man. He says things that hurts fragile feelings, egos all the time. And I get that. I don't think he's perfect by any means. Was he the better choice? 1,000 fucking %. Are you still butthurt about that? 1,000 fucking %. But babes, don't be coming up in my comment section with this shit like I'm just spewing lies on social media because that's what pays me with my whole $70 that TikTok paid me last month. You know. So sorry, babes. This isn't a big paying app unless you've got millions of followers and your videos get played millions of times. That's how you make money on this app. People like me are not making money. I know you think that we're making money, but I got news for you, babe. $70 ain't paying shit in my world, okay? My business pays my bills. And I make a very good living for myself. And yes, I get on the internet and I say things to your fragile feelings don't like. And you know what? I don't care, babes. I'm not put on this earth to make you happy. And you're not the kind of person that I have conversations with, because you can't have a conversation, sweetheart. And you don't like the things that I say, and you don't agree with the things that I say. And because you get all up inside your fragile feelings with that, you can't have a conversation. And that's why I don't conversate with you. Okay, this was fun. Good talk.
Okay, short one this time. Okay, we got the guy, military guy, I think.
Got a bunch of views if you guys look.
10
Jets
minutes,
across the
10
sky.
minutes.
That's like the second time that's happened. About the video about the return of the Marines and the one video got a bunch of views, but people asked 100 questions. So here's what I'm gonna tell you. Okay, I have an International Bar Association membership, which makes me an international lawyer. Technically, it's called a barrister with a Bachelor of Laws through the University of London, okay, in basically common law, right? Because when we say common law and stuff like that, you don't realize that stuff's like real. Like you have to go get the credentials so you can be recognized. So, and I spend the last 5 years reading almost 500 books and building a whole international organization, not to know what I'm saying, when I'm saying it, why I'm saying it. So to have law in the nation, you have to have a court. International law is human rights law and arbitration. That court is the Guantanamo Bay Court of Justice, because it's the International Court of Justice out of The Hague. Okay? As I said before, when I said the War of 1812, the Marines are back, and that one got a bunch of views. Marines are back because the Redcoats that invaded in 1812 was not the Marines. According to the Supreme Court of the United States ruling in 1930, they classified them and named that cartel organization the Union of the United States.
Maria's not in here
That
yet,
Union of the United States consisted of the House of Representatives or members, senators, rogue British officers, naval officers, okay, and financial cartels or financial organizations all together. All right, that was called the Union of the United States. When they burnt the White House down, they destroyed all the land records and all the land patents. When they tried to invade Baltimore, they were trying to get to the birth records at the Basilica. They never got in because they were held at Fort McHenry, where the Star Spangled Banner was written. And then they decided to appoint infiltrators into our system, and they left. And that's why we assumed that we won the War of 1812. We didn't win the War of 1812. They left operators, agents. Those agents have subsequently become the financial organizations or the power organizations, subsequently called now the federal government, or key parts of the federal government, the elite, or their operators. Lincoln called them agents. Okay, basically an insurgency that's been here since 1812. All right. So the International Court of Justice prosecutes for crimes against humanity. But you got to have the International Court of Justice in the North American territory before you can return law. That's how it works. You got to have the court. That court is ran by the United States Marine Corps. That's why it's at Guantanamo Bay. All right. Trump signed an executive order saying that it was against cartels. Everybody assumes it is the drug cartels. Everybody assumes it's drug cartels. It's not the drug cartels. Not just the drug cartels, okay, which they'll probably be given a chance to redeem themselves. All right. But here's what it is. If someone blows the whistle or exercises their rights, and you put together, let's say, 19 people in an organization, when one of the workmen inside that organization blew the whistle on you, and you tortured them, and you violated all their rights, and you ignored them, and you did whatever you wanted, you, as an organization, all 19 people right here, will be classified as an individual organized cartel that is operating outside of treaties and the International Court of Human Rights and the Geneva Convention. If you did it to somebody who is disabled, that is a crime against the human species. Your organization, your 19 people, because there's 19 people that probably should watch this, that are all together as that organized crime cartel inside as public officers and agents inside the government or inside the public organization. That's the cartel. And all 19 will be prosecuted as one individual. And all 19 or they're affiliated will be treated all the same under the International Court of Justice and Justice in Guantanamo Bay. And they're going to need veteran prosecutors or International Bar Association members. And if it was reported to you and you were law enforcement and you ignored it and tried to investigate the individual that reported it, or because it came to your notice and you did nothing as law enforcement, you are part of that organized cartel.
There's Maria.
Because your job is fraud, waste, and abuse, and you failed to do that. So you're now a member. That's how it works. So by having the power to issue declaratory judgments as one group of people, more than one, as a organized operation, syndicate, cartel, every person who participates in gang piles on an individual to destroy their defame them, destroy them, publicly humiliate them, you are part of a cartel. So if like you have an ex-wife who wants to steal everything and then they get with their attorneys who want to help them and they destroy you and then they collude with the judge and the court officers and all of them, that is a syndicated, adjoined individual cartel that will all be treated the same. That's why you have a court of justice.
Hey,
That's
Mike,
what that actually means.
sorry, that's 6 tonight.
And people are going to be prosecuted all over the place.
It's about over.
It's not just the politicians. There are many cartels. There are numerous cartels. And when they adjoin to each other to destroy someone's reputation or steal everything, that's a cartel. And they get judges involved or they get law enforcement involved or the law enforcement refuses to do a proper investigation on fraud, waste, and abuse, they're now a member. And they will all be treated as one individual. And they will have to present their representative for all of them as one united, individual, organized cartel. I hope that clarified it. God bless.
Yeah, I almost didn't find them today. Okay, I found them, but
hatred for Trump. In fact, well, they're all accused of mortgage fraud.
4 minutes.
Well, the hammer of justice might be dropping again. Another one, Swalwell,
Another
who's been
one.
criminally referred to the DOJ after allegedly making misleading or perhaps false statements on loan documents. According to NBC News, which first broke the story, the referral alleges several $1 million worth of loans and refinancing based on Swalwell declaring his primary residence as Washington. It calls for an investigation into possible mortgage fraud, state and local tax fraud, insurance fraud, as well as other related crimes. Here to discuss, Mike Davis, founder of the Article 3 Project. Mike, Swalwell just went on MSNBC and is now threatening Trump officials. Watch.
When we're in the majority, we will have subpoena power and accountability will happen. So Bill Pulte and any other lawless official who is carrying out these political prosecutions on behalf of Donald Trump, they should familiarize themselves with the Judiciary Committee room, because they're going to be spending a lot of time there answering questions. And I sure hope everything they did was above board.
They mean to respond to this if they win the House. Your sense about whether these investigations are valid from what you know and worth it in the long run?
Happy Friday.
Well, I would say this first off with Eric Swalwell. That sounds like obstruction of justice when you are threatening to go after federal investigators for investigating you for a federal crime. So maybe that's another charge that the Justice Department should tack onto his investigation. I also just found this, Laura, this tweet from Eric Swalwell back on March 13th, 2019. He said this, and I'll quote you: "If you commit fraud in this country, you will be indicted and justice will be served. Plain and simple. No one is above the law." And he wrote, "Cough, Donald Trump, cough." So I would say this to Eric Swalwell: if you committed mortgage fraud, you will be indicted and justice will be served.
Swalwell is claiming that this is all political. Watch.
Oh, God.
These allegations are false, just like the allegations against Adam Schiff are false, and Letitia James are false, and Lisa Cook are false. And a spoiler alert for you, there will be allegations next week against somebody that'll be false. No, the Justice Department has not said anything just through leaked media reporting. But this is really about Donald Trump going after his political enemies.
Blame it on Trump.
Mike, your response to that?
If they're false, then Eric Swalwell has nothing to worry about. If those documents do not provide fraudulent statements to a bank, he has nothing to worry about. It sounds like Bill Pulte, according to Catherine Doyle's reporting at NBC, may disagree with Mr. Swalwell on this point.
Well, in the end, I mean, you watch the ins and outs of all of these cases. You know, when judges are involved, some of them can be activists, some play it straight down the line. I mean, these issues tend to be fairly clear cut. Maybe it's widespread. I have no idea, but it seems to be fairly clear cut. You ask a question, you get an answer, you got to fill out the form, etc. And there's always the fine print in those forms. You know, you have to attest to the fact that it's accurate. And you got to be accurate. Mike, thank you. Always great to see you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to...
Yep. They all think it's Trump that's doing it. This one is 2.5. I can't remember if I played it or not, you guys. So...
To those who walk in light, and even those still trapped in the shadow. I've stood my ground through storms most would never dare face. I've been ridiculed, mocked, slandered, called everything under the sun, not because I lie, but because I tell the truth. You ask why I do what I do. It's because I have to. Because something deep in my spirit won't let me sit still and watch the world fall asleep under the spell of deception. I do it because silence is betrayal, and I refuse to betray the people, even when they're not ready to hear what I have to say. Some hate me, not because I hurt them, but because I've exposed the lie they've built their comfort on. The moment I speak truth, the moment I question the system or the narratives they've been force-fed, it pokes at their ego. And for many, that ego is louder than reason, heavier than logic, and blinder than truth. But I don't stop. I keep going because of the hate. I push forward because of the resistance. I speak louder because of the slander. Every attack just proves I'm right where I'm supposed to be, on the front lines of this war for truth. The truth isn't always pretty. It doesn't always feel good, but it's real. And if there's one thing I've sworn to be in this life as a Marine, as a man, and as a messenger, it's real. I don't need approval. I don't need applause. I need awakening. I need remembrance. I need people to see. And if it costs me my reputation, my comfort, even my safety, so be it. I'd rather be hated for truth than loved for a lie. To the ones who get it, I see you. Keep standing tall. To the ones who hate me, I still love you because I know your anger comes from fear, and I know what fear does to a soul. But make no mistake, I won't be silenced. I won't be shamed. I won't be stopped. This is bigger than me. This is about all of us. With truth in my mouth and fire in my chest and love in my heart, I'll keep going always. Semper Fidelis.
Hey, I thought that was okay. We got our Michigan governor.
She claimed that 36,000 auto jobs had been created this year. When the truth comes out, there is a loss of 9,000 auto jobs in the state of Michigan. If you don't know already, Dearborn, there's certain areas where it looks like it's a third world country. The people there do not love America. They would never have an American flag. They don't speak English. A majority of them are on the SNAP EBT thing. A lot of illegal immigrants. And Governor Whitmer, she does not love us. Who does she love? She just wants a certain group to vote for her. So she's been peddling this whole, we're booming, things going back, Michigan, at a loss of 9,000 auto jobs. So here's what's wild. These people, they make up stories, right? Like they say things, then they try to get the news to agree with them. And she's saying, our auto industry is booming out here in Michigan. We're bringing back the jobs. And people be like, yeah. And then the report comes out. And it's like, no, none of that happened. It's a complete failure. And scary, really, if you think about it, because you see what's happening in Minnesota. Now you see what's happening in Michigan. How do we contain this? What's your advice? What do you think? What's going on? Crazy. Make sure you hit this follow button so we see each other again in this ongoing series. I'm scared for Minnesota, and I'm scared for Michigan, and I'm super grateful that the administration is aware of it. What's your take? Let me hear what you have to say, and I'll talk.
Okay, Michigan news. Chicago news.
Samsung OLED S9. We are keeping a close eye on protests outside of Chicago, where demonstrators and authorities have been clashing in front of an ICE detention center in Broadview, Illinois. Broadview's mayor said 4 officers were injured today. 21 people have been arrested, according to law enforcement officials. It follows weeks of protests between federal agents and community members in the Chicago area who have been demonstrating against the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration. NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster is in Broadview, Illinois. So, Shaq, these protests, they have been going on in this area for weeks, right? Do we know what caused things to escalate today?
Yeah, I think you and I have talked about these demonstrations in recent weeks that have become these flashpoints. Today's escalation really was sparked by what was a demonstration, a weekly demonstration here with religious leaders who are calling for religious services for detainees in that ICE processing facility, again, here in the suburban Chicago neighborhood. And there was a clash with law enforcement that you saw on this street. And I'll let you see some of the scene behind me right now. It's a cleared scene. You see it's very calm right now, but that, of course, conflicts with the images that you were just looking at. Now, what Broadview's mayor is saying right now is that there were 4 members of law enforcement who were injured in these scuffles, including 3 who were sent to the hospital. We also know that there are about 21 protesters who were arrested. Again, many of them were members of the religious community calling for better conditions at this facility and the stop and for the halting of ICE arrest. And we have the statement from the mayor of Broadview making clear who she's blaming for these clashes that we've been seeing and that we saw today. The mayor saying the violence by out-of-town protesters is unacceptable and outrageous. I have repeatedly pleaded to protesters to raise their voices, not their fists. We will see them in court. We do not know the specific identities of those arrested. We're promised those by authorities later today, Ellison.
Shaq, all of this comes after a judge this week ordered hundreds of individuals detained by federal agents to be released. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, we know the release of about 600 people is not imminent, but it has been ordered, at least that process, to start by a federal judge. This goes back to a consent decree, essentially a court agreement that dates back to 2022. Essentially, you have hundreds of people who attorneys say were arrested without a warrant, and the judge saying that if they are not dangerous, then they should be released. Based on that agreement, we do know that there are about 13 people who were ordered to be released today by noon. At last check, some of them have been released, but we're still waiting to hear exactly how many have been let go, Ellison.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on.
Okay. We're going to do Erin. She has 3 short ones I'm going to play.
Only 2 months old for this iteration of the Erin Molan show.
About 3
I only
minutes.
started posting clips on YouTube at the start of this year, so we're very, very new. But he says, Mark, dear Erin, I just wanted to congratulate you for reaching 100,000 YouTube subscribers. I think I was in the first 3,000 subscribers. I watch all of your videos, enjoy your content, and guess you have interviewed most recently Tommy Robinson, Tal Hatuv, and Dinesh. I hope you get to Israel again in peacetime so that you can explore all that the tiny country has to offer. My daughter was there at the same time you were in June when Iran were firing rockets. I think you were extracted via Jordan. I had to sneak out via the border of Jordan. My daughter got out in a cruise ship to Cyprus. Thank you once again for your advocacy and your support. Mark, thank you. That's really lovely. I love thinking about people who jumped on in those very early days before we were anything. I mean, I'm as grateful to number 100,000 as I am to number 1. But it's just so lovely that we've gotten here. And in all seriousness, when I started this, it had just come off the back of a very difficult time. I'd lost basically every job that I'd had for the first time in 20 years in the media as a single mum. It was a lot. And for me to not just go back into something quite settled and normal and mainstream, and I had some offers to do that straight away, was a really tough decision because, I have responsibilities, but there was something in me and given the response of you guys out there to what I've been doing on Sky News that made me believe that there was a market out there for what I had to say and that there was an audience for what I had to say. And you can lose confidence in this space. It's a brutal industry and things can happen that make you question your worth and what you've got to offer. But for some reason, I should probably have had no belief in myself, but I had immense belief in myself. And we embarked upon this journey and I'm blown away by all of it. I'm so grateful. It doesn't happen without you guys. The podcast as well, version of this show is going great guns. I'm looking at charts in the UK, Canada, South Africa, America, Australia, Israel, and I scroll and I can't believe, we're in the top 50 in all of those countries and there's 4,000 podcasts in this specific category. It blows my mind. I'm so grateful and I can't wait to just keep growing. So yeah, this went on a little bit of a tangent, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys all understood how grateful I am for your support, how much it means, and that I'll never let you down.
She said that right. I'll say the same thing what she just said. Thanks again for all the support since day one. I did get over, I don't know exactly, but I know I'm way over 1 million views. So, with all my channels together, we got a lot of good help through the years. And thanks for the people that passed, the future, and yeah, we're doing pretty good for a small channel. Everything, so, but yeah, I got Cash App and PO Box that K drops once in a while. Anybody want to donate? You don't have to if you don't want to. There's a lot of people before wanted me to put up a thing there. I'm getting the super chat. Since I got all my stuff cleared, I got over 1,000 hours, so I need, I think, 2,000 more, I think. But yeah, with all the things that happened in the past 5 years, it probably wouldn't have been how I learned so much with my mom and dad dying, almost 2 years now, and I wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for you guys. And yeah, I just didn't. I want to be a sportscaster, but I guess I'm a newscaster, so I could do both. But I love doing this. Keeps me going. But appreciate all the help. I love everybody. Love all you. Okay. JJ, this one here is yours. It's 3.5. I'm not sure if he's good or bad. Oh, shoot. I guess I can't play it. There's music. Three minutes on this one.
To it. It's on the Axios news site and it says, Scoop, Israel seeks 20-year military aid deal with US with America First tweaks. Is that correct?
I don't know what they're talking about. My direction is the exact opposite. When I first became prime minister in 1996, I went to the US Congress and we were receiving financial aid and military aid. And I said, the first thing is, we're going to build a high-tech, free market capitalist economy. We don't need the financial aid. Phase it out. And everybody gasped. How dare he, this young prime minister, eager for a PR title. He's giving up billions of dollars. And I was happy to do it, and I was right to do it. So we got rid of that. Now I want to make our arms industry independent, totally as independent as possible. So my direction is the exact opposite. I don't know who's talking for Israel. I do. So follow what I say, not what is put forward in some leaks that are not true.
So, Prime Minister, you think it's time to cut military aid entirely from the US?
I think it's time to assure that Israel is independent. Understand that our military aid is like a fraction, a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of what the U.S. spent in Afghanistan or spent in, in the Middle East. It's tiny, but I think that we have a very strong economy. We have a very strong arms industry, and it's true that even though we get what we get, which we appreciate, 80% of that is spent in the United States. So it produces jobs in the United States. But nevertheless, I'd like to see a much more independent Israeli, and even more independent Israeli defense industry. And remember that Israel doesn't ask others to fight for us. Israel is the one American ally in the world that says, we need boots on the ground. We don't need American servicemen fighting, on the ground for Israel or around Israel. We're fine. We fight our own battles, but in doing so, we also serve important American interests, like preventing countries that chant death to America from having nuclear bombs to throw at America, and so on. So my direction is independence. My direction is not greater dependence. My direction is greater independence. And I'll probably have something to say about that very soon.
What's a realistic timeline for that?
Oh, I think we're already we're already going there. In fact, this afternoon I'm having a very important meeting exactly on this subject.
So she broke. It's a 27-minute one, but she broke it up in 2 parts. So there's a second part of 4 minutes. Four and a half.
Tehran. The regime was significantly weakened during that 12-day war, and I was in Israel for that war. You did an incredible job. America came in and helped as well. What can you do to help the people of Iran make the most of this vulnerable moment for that evil regime who does not belong there, who stole power?
Well, we can do a lot, Aaron, and we're ready to do a lot. But this regime isn't interested in the people of Iran. I mean, they took billions and billions and billions of dollars and put it into the Iran terror axis. They put it in Hezbollah. They put it in Hamas. They put it in the murderous Assad regime. The one thing they didn't put it in was in waterworks. They didn't put it in schools. They didn't put it in building the Iranian economy. The Israeli economy is bigger than the Iranian economy. Can you imagine? I mean, we're only 10 million people and they're close to 100 million. So that's what they did. They basically gave it to put all their efforts into terror and subjugation of their own people who are miserable. I just saw a poll that said that 90% of the people think the situation in Iran is horrible and the regime is failing the people. And that's true. So will this cause the people of Iran to rise up? Time will tell. But it's very clear that the regime has absolutely no support there. It can't manage its way out of a paper bag.
Would you have finished the job had it not been for American reluctance during that 12-day war?
No, look, we had a very clear set of targets. We were absolutely clear. We wanted to target the nuclear sites, the missile production sites, and a few other targets. We made that clear. When that was achieved, the war ended exactly, by the way, on our plan. There was one possible more strike, and that was it. It wasn't something that that we were stopped or we didn't intend to follow our war plans. That's exactly what we did. But I always said that the collapsing of this regime was not part of the Rising Lion operation. It could be a result of it, but it wasn't one of the war objectives. Now it's up to the people of Iran. They see what's going on there. And, revolutions, if there are any, have to be made by revolutions within the country. I'd like to see them take charge of their destiny. They deserve it. They're great people. They're really great people. I mean, they're an ancient people. Once we had unbelievable relations with the people of Iran. In about 2,500 years ago, we had a horrible Persian leader, Haman, who was like Hitler. He wanted to destroy all the Jews, and he was, he failed. And we celebrate that failure in the story of Queen Esther, a Jewish queen who helped foil the plot. But we also celebrate a great king, which I mentioned in the beginning of this interview, King Cyrus, who returned the Jews from exile in Babylon to Judea, where we built the second temple for the Jewish people. He was a great king. He was a great friend. So we'd like to, how shall I say, we'd like to have those who follow the tradition of Cyrus for friendship, great friendship between the Jews and the Persians, and not those who follow the traditions of Haman, who want to annihilate us as the present regime does. And I'll bet that over time, you'll see that the positive course is the one that will win the day. I have no doubt about that.
There are reports that they're rebuilding their nuclear facilities, and they're also investing heavily in more ballistic missiles, of course, aimed squarely at your country and obviously desires for further as well. Do you have any intel on that, on whether that is the case?
Aaron, we set them back on both courses, both on the nuclear weapon development and also on the missile development. We set them back, but they'll try to recover that, and we're following that and following it also with American friends.
Okay. Got a few short ones on her. Okay, we will. Before the other lady there, the last one I played, and okay.
Talking about where Charlie Kirk is spouting dangerous or offensive rhetoric, because I've looked and they don't exist. I mean, I usually respect John Fetterman. He's a reasonable, level-headed Democrat, but shame on him for not pressing Kirk to cite a single example when she tried to rope him into condemning Charlie with nothing but vague accusations.
I think some people might say Charlie Kirk's rhetoric was extreme.
I agree. I mean, I think we agree that we probably didn't agree with much of what he said. And I think I'm sure we both agree that you shouldn't shoot people, and you shouldn't execute them in public.
The problem here is Fetterman already admitted that he didn't look into what Charlie Kirk said. He didn't do a deep dive, but now he's claiming he disagrees with everything. That's a man who normally knows right from wrong, but now he's bending to his base and their baseless smears. And of course, the media, well, they can't resist a shiny new distraction. They sniff a Democrat rumor and sprint after it like it's Watergate 2.0, except this one's just a nothing burger with a side of Epstein sauce. See, Democrats toss out a whisper about Trump, and suddenly MSNBC, CNN, and the entire clickbait brigade, they're in full meltdown mode. So what's the so-called scandal? Well, apparently Trump might have been in a house where there might have been some girls. That's it. No crime, no connection, just enough to keep CNN's coffee pots boiling. But before we get to the media's meltdown, let's look at what actual witnesses say. You know, those people the press pretend don't exist at this point. Virginia Giuffre, the alleged victim the Democrats are using for this smear, has gone on record saying Trump did absolutely nothing wrong. And that was under oath, by the way. Plus, there's this. The media's completely lost it. Just watch Jen Psaki on MSNBC. She gets so excited over the fake Epstein email story that she blurts out, "Trump's a predator," on live TV. And then she panics, like she just saw a subpoena flash before her eyes. I mean, you can almost hear the lawyers yelling, "Walk it back," as she scrambles to clean it up. Watch this.
In supporting what Donald Trump is doing.
You're talking about the other predators out there, in addition to Trump. I mean, I'm not saying he is. We don't know all the details about that. I just mean in addition to what we've learned about Epstein and others, there's other predators out there.
There are.
There it is. Psaki's mouth outrunning her legal team. She calls Trump a predator and then backpedals faster than Joe Biden on a bicycle. This is the playbook. Pay attention. They make the accusation, they walk it back later, and then they count on viewers to forget the truth. The reality, though, Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago years before Epstein was arrested. He's got zero ties, no victims, and no island selfies. Meanwhile, Bill Clinton, 26 flights on the Lolita Express, 17 White House visits with Maxwell. But the press suddenly loses its curiosity when the scandal has a D next to it. I mean, if hypocrisy were a felony, every newsroom in D.C. would be under house arrest. And now Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury, she makes this outrageous claim. Watch this.
Whether or not Virginia Giuffre has accused the president of wrongdoing, what I'd like to say to the American people is believe your eyes. We have all seen the photographs of Donald Trump with underage girls sitting on his lap.
Excuse me, what photos? Did they get them from Hunter's laptop? Because those pictures do not exist. And if they did, they'd be wallpapered on every building from Manhattan to Malibu. The only picture out there is Ivanka as a little girl sitting on her dad's lap. This is the same nonsense that got George Stephanopoulos sued for claiming Trump was convicted of rape, which, by the way, never happened. The left doesn't care about facts or victims. They only care about the headlines. And we know this because when Congressman Tim Burchett tried to make the Epstein files go public, guess who blocked it last night? Yeah, the Democrats.
They're going to pull portions of it out, and they're going to try to fit their own little narrative. Both sides are going to do it. You all know it. You're all going to feed upon it. Let's just get the dadgum bill out. Let's vote it out. And the Democrats oppose me on it. And it's stupid. It's all about politics. It's not about taking care of young ladies who got abused, and we should take care of them. But there's a process in place. The Democrats have had it for 4 years and didn't do a dadgum thing. And you know, if Trump was in that thing, Biden and the rest of Kamala Harris, I mean, he's the Antichrist to them. They would have already had it out.
Okay, that's one. 3 minutes on this one. 3.
And just yesterday, he left CNN's Dana Bash speechless, exposing how the left literally wishes him dead. Example after example, he laid bare just how toxic the left has become. I'm telling you, there are not enough therapy couches in America to fix these people. And speaking of these people, Jen Psaki caught live on air making an accusation about Trump straight out of Lawsuit Central. Watch the panic hit her face the second she realizes what she just said on national television. And that's not all. Gavin Newsom's former chief of staff was arrested yesterday in a federal fraud case, and a judge just laid down the law on New Jersey Congresswoman LaMonica McIver, the same lawmaker who apparently thought it was a good idea to body slam ICE agents. It is a jam-packed show today. Hit that like button if you're wishing John Fetterman well, because we're not like the left. We don't wish harm on our political opponents. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel so you never miss the chaos that's always happening in Washington. Well, if there's one thing 47 does well, it's keeping promises. Remember when he said he'd give a $10,000 bonus to agents who didn't miss a day during the Democrat shutdown and even picked up extra shifts to help out? Well, today, Secretary Kristi Noem, she made it happen. Checks in hand, smiles all around. Take Ashley, for example. She was in the middle of buying a home for her family when the shutdown froze her paycheck and forced her to back out of the deal. Today, thanks to this bonus, she might finally move forward and turn that dream into reality. Let's listen in for a moment.
Rico, I want to present to you a check and say thank you from the American people. Appreciate it. Ashley, thank you. Yes. And is Leo here? All right, Leo.
And more big news today, as I said, John Fetterman was rushed to the hospital this morning after getting lightheaded and falling outside of his Pennsylvania home. Listen to this.
Fox News alert, Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman was hospitalized after a fall this morning. It happened near his home in western Pennsylvania. Doctors say he had an episode of ventricular fibrillation, which is an irregular heart rhythm. The spokesperson for Fetterman says he felt lightheaded after the fall, had some facial injuries, but is doing well and is being kept for observation at a Pittsburgh hospital. We wish him well.
Now, spokesperson for Fetterman posted on X that the senator says, quote, "If you thought my face looked bad before, wait until you see it now." Good to see he still has his sense of humor and is in good spirits. We wish him the best. The timing, though, it's chilling. Fetterman just told CNN's Dana Bash that some on the left were practically cheering he hadn't survived his stroke. Watch Dana squirm as Fetterman lays out the shocking laundry list of left-wing rhetoric and how it stacks up against what the right is saying.
When I asked my digital team, I said, we're on all the platforms, really what's kind of the harshest, what's kind of...
Okay. I think this is today's one, isn't it?
Or if they already have it. Indeed, they believe the ends justify the means. So they are willing to do literally any and everything to get or to keep power. But tonight, or today, depending on what time you're watching this, we're talking about a different nature of fraud. Perhaps a more sinister version, a disgusting version of fraud that Democrats, the same perpetrators of the former, have been perpetrating all the same. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins was on Fox and she exposed this to Laura Ingram. I know it's immigrant to me, though. It's funnier that way.
And 20 plus others did not, and we're suing. We're in a litigation right now. But of the 29 that complied, what we have found is staggering. 500,000 people getting benefits 2 times under the same name.
In case you're missing it, the U.S. Department of Agriculture under Brooke Rollins is investigating the SNAP program, the EBT warriors and the Taquishas and the LaQuishas and the LaMonicas who have been sucking off our tax dollars while they get their nails did and their eyelashes did. So they've been investigating that program, and I guess 2/3 of the states have responded to their inquiry for information, and they have discovered 500,000 people receiving benefits twice. So duplicate benefit receivers. How ridiculous is that? What else do Democrats do? They send people how many ballots? Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. But listen to this part.
5,000 dead people. 80% of the able-bodied Americans, meaning they can work.
Come on, Brooke. We're not just going to slide past that like we're in Aspen, Colorado, skiing. Like, come on. We got to stay focused on that for a second. 5,000 dead people. I guess ballots in elections aren't the only things Democrats send to deceased individuals. Indeed, they receive a lot. And no wonder they vote Democrat. 99.9999% of the times, they're receiving benefits while dead. Jesus Christ and the disciples, well, Jesus is not in his grave, but the disciples are certainly receiving SNAP benefit from the U.S. government and perhaps mail-in ballots from California every election. That's how it works, ladies and gentlemen. How ridiculous is this? Wow. Unbelievable. 5,000 dead people are getting SNAP benefits.
They don't have small children at home. They're not taking care of an elderly parent. They can work and they choose not to work, of course, because they're getting significant benefits from the taxpayer. So this light, Laura, that has now been shined on what is perhaps one of the most corrupt, dysfunctional programs in American history that we are working now. Very big announcements coming next week on this. We are cracking down. We now have a plan to fix it. And we're really, really excited about doing that for the American people.
So this has been going on for many years.
Wow. I hope whatever they do next week is big. I hope it equals the level of corruption, right? It matches how much corruption. The level of action must match whatever's been going on. That's not the only thing going on with the EBT SNAP program, because me and Grok created a list of all the shenanigans that have been uncovered recently. New York. So a USDA employee and 5 accomplices operated a network of 160 plus unauthorized EBT terminals at eligible or ineligible stores, processing illegal SNAP redemptions. How insane is that? The insiders sold confidential USDA data, including EBT license numbers and accepted bribes. Wow. $66 million in unauthorized transactions over 5 years. What could $66 million have done for the American people? We could have done a lot, actually. A lot of potholes disappearing with that kind of money in every city. We could have upgraded our highways and our bridges. We could have done literally anything else, but nope, we got scammed. 6 people got charged, just a bunch of fraudsters, and they're facing up to 40 years in prison each. Okay, nationwide SNAP audit and ineligibility purge. November 2025, USDA audit in coordination with the Department of Government Efficiency. They removed 700,000 people since January of this year. So almost 1 million people receiving benefits illegally. $12 billion is the estimate. $12 billion we've been paying for that. So every time we pay our taxes, that's where it goes. 21 states refused data request. How ridiculous. How can they refuse data request if the federal government is funding it? How about we investigate those 21 states? Somebody from that state, from each of those states, needs to be arrested, because it seems like there's a criminal enterprise with EBT and SNAP. Los Angeles skimming sting operation, a joint USDA Secret Service Homeland Security operation targeted EBT skimming. Sorry, what is EBT skimming? There's literally a term for this. The type of fraud where criminals install legal devices on point-of-sale terminals or ATMs to steal EBT card information and PINs, which they then use to empty accounts. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. $350 million stolen in 2024 alone, with a 350% increase in Q4. 10 arrests at 100 plus locations, high value evidence seized, international organizations implicated in cloning and direct account hacks. Alabama card theft, criminals targeted in skimming, again, $12 million. Georgia, sharp increase in reported SNAP benefit thefts, leading the nation using advanced skimming tech. Okay, this is crazy. Rollins actually noted underreporting So they're underreporting the numbers, which means these things are a lot worse. These cases highlight systemic issues like insider betrayal, technological vulnerabilities, and state-level inconsistencies. Brooke Rollins has emphasized ongoing hyper-focused efforts to root out waste, with estimates
Another minute and a half.
20 to 30% of SNAP's $200 billion annual budget may be fraudulent. That's $40 billion. Well, it's more than $40 billion. That's up to $60 billion. You know, we could literally build 10 new cities with $60 billion. This is America, ladies and gentlemen. This is America. Dead people get EBT benefits, and 500,000 people get the benefits twice under the same name. And that's just from the states that complied, the 29 states that said, all right, we'll give you the information. I assume most of these investigations and their findings are happening with red states. The 21 states that refuse data request are blue states. And you know, everything is worse in a blue state. The fraud is worse with programs like this because the governors, the authorities in those states don't check who requests these things. They'll give it to literally anybody. You'll have billionaires walking around doing all that EBT nonsense as well. I guess we have to keep paying for this, right? So Letitia and LaQuisha and Fani can keep getting their nails did, their eyebrows did. Goodbye.
The frame pro. That was George. Okay, we got, I think, only one cash tonight, you guys.
You're gonna what? You're gonna shoot me? Wow. Look at how many activists there are. They're surrounding this car, and the car was hit. Look at this. Their car was rammed. These guys were under attack. And the same people attacking ICE don't want them in their community when they go to look for their assailants. Look at this. Oh, they got the pepper spray out. Wow. Look at this. Yeah, the criminals are hiding around children. This is like an insurrection.
Okay. Let them talk. What are we going to talk about? There's kids right here. My kids are right here.
Yeah, there's criminals around here too. This is ridiculous.
There's kids upstairs. Well, there's kids upstairs.
They're hiding behind children. These rioters. Look, he's still got the pepper spray aimed over here. Wow. Look at this woman. She's defiant. She's yelling at him. Ooh. Here we are at a different house, and criminals apparently entered the property to hide, and ICE caught them. This is wild. You know, and people say, oh, we don't want ICE in our community. It's the criminals who are in the community. It's the criminals who are being helped in these communities. Don't reach for anything in here. Look at how close these people are getting. Meanwhile, these rioters are still trying to break into the local deportation jail.
People are willing to
Every Friday.
physically put their hands on immigration, custom, and
Look, they're
enforcement.
fighting their own state police. Every week they do this.
And you're talking about local law enforcement.
For the folks that are being told to move out of the roadway,
Yeah, they're
and they
not supposed to be in the
progressively
road.
continue to move further in, despite being pushed back, being
Aggressively
Agents are
continue.
getting pushed back here.
That ain't peace.
They're outnumbered, as you said previously. I mean, it's obvious they're getting pushed back.
Look at all these people
Garrett,
sticking up
I'm
for
gonna ask
federal
you to stand
fugitives,
up.
trying to
We'll
set
keep
them
these
free.
live pictures from Broadview, Illinois. You
This is
are
crazy.
looking at a sanctuary area inside a sanctuary state. I want to bring in former
Sanctuary
acting
area
ICE
and a
Director
sanctuary
Jonathan
state.
Fahey on the phone with us
This is
now.
terrible.
Jonathan, I don't know what
Look,
you
they
can
just
see.
have to stay on the other end of
but I
that
do want to
barrier and
talk
they
with
won't
you
get
about
arrested.
the protocol
But they keep
of dealing with
flowing
a
out
crowd
of it.
this big. And did we even anticipate this is what it would look like?
Look,
I mean,
they
they're
got
breaking
somebody.
through now.
Oh, did they break
Yeah,
through?
I'm watching this right
Did
now.
they breach the police line?
Live on Fox, and it does
This
seem
is
like
crazy.
the crowd is getting more violent and pushing back, and it's certainly not what we would call free speech.
Oh, look at this guy in
These
the
are
yellow.
people that are
That's a big
deliberately
guy, man.
provoking law enforcement,
Better
trying to have
get
a
him under control
conversation.
quick.
And you can tell just by their,
This is crazy.
you see the signs in the background of open borders and other things like that. These are people that are determined. They don't
That's
care
right.
about the conditions where people are being housed.
Yeah, they don't care.
That's a pretext because they want open borders and amnesty.
That's right.
And I think when you look at this, the
They
big
want
picture that I
amnesty.
think is the worst part of this all is You have J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, and instead of saying ICE has a legitimate law enforcement function and they should be respected, he is on the side of these rioters, and I'll call them
the
rioters.
governor's on their side.
Getting violent, and on
That's
the
why
side
they're
of
so
people
violent.
That are trying to
This is
prevent
sanctuary
ICE from doing
lawlessness,
a
sponsored by the
legitimate
government,
job, which is in fact enforcing laws passed by Congress.
But look what this is leading to. Now we've got gangs putting out hits on
shots
Border
were
Patrol.
allegedly fired at Border Patrol agents in Chicago's Little Village neighborhood on Saturday over the weekend.
This
now
is
our
crazy.
DHS sources say that a person in connection with that shooting is now in custody. What they're saying is that he's an illegal immigrant felon from Mexico. He was apparently inside of that Jeep with a gun, but they're working right now to confirm that he is in fact the one who fired shots. So this manhunt isn't necessarily over just yet. But here's what DHS is saying happened. They're saying that agents that were conducting immigration enforcement near 26 and Kedzie where someone in a black Jeep opened fire and then actually took off from the scene. DHS also says people nearby threw bricks and even a paint can at Border Patrol vehicles.
That's assault, man.
Chicago police did respond as
arrested.
well. They secured the scene there. No one was actually hit by that gunfire.
But it gets worse because a judge just ordered a whole bunch of fugitives
The federal government
released.
has just a few more hours to release at least 13 people a judge ruled were being held within a violation of a 2022 consent decree, barring ICE officers from making arrests without warrants.
They don't need a warrant.
More than 600 others detained could be released as early as
600
next week.
people.
The Department of Homeland Security has until later today to say whether any of the 615 people detained without warrants between June and October pose a danger or flight risk. So far, they flagged at least 313 as low risk, eligible
Look,
for
if they're
release on a
hiding in communities, they pose a
bond
risk.
and GPS monitoring under that same settlement.
This is crazy.
This will allow a lot of people to return to their communities.
No, it won't, because if you're in America illegally, your community is not in America. It's not. It's somewhere else because you are in the country without permission.
Because they never should have been arrested in the first place.
You're not supposed to arrest illegal
But anyone
people
with
in the
a
country.
serious criminal history or deemed likely to flee will stay in federal custody. Since Operation Midway Blitz launched in
And the
September,
judge
more
wants to
than
release them
3,300
all.
people have been arrested in Chicago and in the suburbs, and
Wow.
many
That's
have
a lot
already
of
been
people.
deported or left on their own.
That's
I'll tell
crazy.
you what's going to happen is we're going to go even harder on the streets.
Even
if he releases
harder.
Those 650, we're going to apprehend 1,650 on the streets of Chicago.
Wow. Okay, so this judge just sealed the fate of everybody. There's going to be more enforcement here. The harder these sanctuaries fight to keep criminals in the country, the harder law enforcement has to go after them to stop them. This is so ridiculous, so lawless. These judges are brainwashed.
You guys are on private property. The private property. Private property. You know what that means? You guys are here illegally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll get out of your illegally area then.
Yes, please.
Ma'am, these guys fled and they crashed into our vehicle.
Yeah.
Because you guys were trying to illegally detain them.
Oh my goodness.
Illegally kidnapping people on their way to work.
I guess people in Montana where
it
this
is.
happened are as dumb as they
You
are in
guys-
Chicago. It's the
See,
same
but when
brainwashed attitude all across the country.
You should be embarrassing yourself.
I'm so embarrassed.
You should be.
Why?
I'm so embarrassed.
Doing his
You should
job.
be. This is ICE wearing a police vehicle or police jacket. ICE, where they said that they would not be with police.
They are police. Immigration
You should
police.
be embarrassed. You guys are breaking up families.
No, they're saving families.
He's a man.
He's not. You don't even know his name. Do you? Do you know?
You tell these activists that these people getting arrested
They were
truly
halfway.
are dangerous criminals that do not improve America. And you know what they say? They say that's a lie. They say that's a lie. That's not true. Release them. You can hit these people with stripes on a zebra and they say, no, that's a horse, not a zebra.
You know
Why'd you arrest his friend if he's the?
Yesterday's networks just won't meet the needs of tomorrow's AI. It was the point that we said we're going to need a bigger boat.
Because his friend's with him.
Why'd you take his friend? You already said because he's illegal.
If the friend is hanging out with an illegal criminal and the friend's here illegally, guess what?
There's
They gotta
another
go.
vehicle.
That's the law.
Another vehicle.
Yep, that's right. Better believe it,
Another
ma'am.
vehicle.
Ma'am. This is so crazy. These people, they
There's
have
another
nothing to do.
vehicle.
They think they're saving the world.
Said that they would not be wearing police vests, and they
Oh, my
obviously are.
They are police.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is
And
so
you?
crazy.
Are you Hispanic? Covering your face, arresting people?
Wow. As if immigration law is somehow racist to care about. This is the law. It doesn't matter where you're from. If you're not supposed to be here, you've broken the law and you need to get arrested. Watch this. Here we have a reporter who's found an ICE agent or a Border Patrol agent who appears to speak Spanish. This is fascinating.
La pregunta es, señor, si pudiera unos minutos. La gente está preguntando, la gente, la comunidad latina, que cuánto le pagan a ustedes por cada
Oh, what an insulting question.
Esto es lo que tiene que entender la gente. Nosotros no somos
They're not bounty hunters.
Nosotros somos agentes federales que estamos haciendo nuestro
doing their
trabajo.
job. That's right.
So no le crean las
We need
noticias
people like
que
this
están
guy.
mintiendo, diciendo que los pagan por persona. Nosotros estamos
We are catching
agarrando a la gente
people
que no
who
tiene
have
que estar
no
aquí, que
business
son
being here. That's right.
criminales. Y luego
And they
dicen,
are criminals.
Gente que no es criminal.
Right. You break the law, you're a criminal.
Señor, no. Oiga, personas que están trabajando, que no tienen antecedentes penales.
Oh, this whole no
que
criminal
han
record
hecho nada,
scam.
que solamente no tienen papeles. Ellos no tienen bronca. Ustedes no están arrestando a personas que no tengan récord criminal.
If they're here illegally, they're a criminal.
No le puedo decir. Obviamente, la gente que está aquí ilegalmente.
Right.
Está aquí ilegalmente, señor.
Sí, pero ustedes andan
Right. Illegal is illegal. And you know what? These people don't want to hear that. They want to make it sound like immigration laws are wrong because they are one-sided. But that's not true. The Border Patrol chief even says in Chicago, they've found people from all across the globe. They've found people from Russia. They found people from Korea. They're finding everybody in Chicago who's not supposed to be there. And that's how all of these sanctuaries are, including California, where that was from. But listen to what Chicago's up
we raised
to.
this concern. Last year, the Democratic majority and the governor put into place a law that said we were going to provide free health care for undocumented citizens
so wrong, man.
From age 42 on up, that we were going to provide them free health care.
Free health care.
At the time, they said they anticipated about 10,000 residents would take advantage of this program.
How many took it?
We raised the concern. We said that was going to be a problem. By the beginning of this year, the state said, well, we're wrong. That number is about 52,000. Now, this week,
that's crazy.
The state came out and said, we're wrong again. That number is now 120,000 undocumenteds are going to be receiving free health care
crazy.
At a cost of over $1 billion.
Billions of dollars.
That's money that's not in the budget. That's going to create a significant problem. And so here in Illinois, we are now adding thousands a month as you have unhealthy and sick, undocumented citizens from around the country, from frankly around the world, that are coming to Illinois because the fact we're the only state that covers these individuals.
That's crazy.
For total health care. And so this is something that is really creating a significant problem for our budget.
The reason you have this is because this sanctuary state is going above and beyond. Even places like New York and California, they're doing everything they can to be the heart of the Trump resistance movement.
Let's talk a little bit more about kind of the coverage that they are receiving. It's my understanding that the federal government provides no matching dollars for this program, that it's fully Illinois taxpayer funded.
Wow, I would leave that state immediately.
What about the healthcare that they're receiving? It's my also understanding that it's probably even better than people on Medicaid or citizens on Medicaid who really need coverages. Can you kind of talk about that?
This is an important issue as well. And another frustrating thing, the president opens the borders up, but then he says, but we're not going to pay for any of the health care. This is 100% paid for by state taxpayers.
That's so crazy.
The program of
who have to buy their own health care
is actually better than those of our own residents that are on Medicaid. Wow. So our low income,
and it's better than what legal residents
in
get.
Illinois that are on Medicaid, they do not get as good a services as these non-citizens.
So if you want the best health care you can get in Illinois, your best bet is to not be somebody who's in the country with permission. That's crazy.
Are getting that are coming into Illinois. So that's costing us significantly more than it costs our own residents.
Who are paying for it.
In addition to the over $1 billion cost of healthcare, we're also providing free daycare for children. We're including free housing, food subsidies, cash subsidies So the total cost of this program is in the billions of dollars.
If you can get everything for free, it's hard to blame people for heading to Illinois to be there, especially when it's a sanctuary. And if somebody gets arrested, they're resisting ICE. They won't turn you over to ICE, and where these mobs just come out of their apartments and attack the federal government.
We're ratcheting operations up in Chicago. And let me tell you a little bit. My team and I have spent 2 months in Chicago. What's happening there is it's beyond the pale. That's a very corrupt system in Chicago, whether it's those elected leaders like Pritzker or those out of control judges. Chicago needs some attention. We're not going anywhere out of Chicago. So you're going to see some very dynamic
Where did he get that idea? Where did he get that idea? I mean, the local papers are reporting you're on your way out. Agents are leaving. Where did they get this?
Sure. Sandra, I think that they're just mistaken. They've been mistaken for 2 months now with just about everything they've said. This is just another example of that.
Right. They say that ICE is here and they're going after innocent people, and then they haul a bunch of gang members out of an apartment. They say, oh, ICE is here, and they're not going after the worst of the worst. When we see them arresting people who are incredibly dangerous, it's incredible how many dangerous criminals have set up shop in this place. But you know what? It's not surprising. What's the surprise that people who have a red carpet opportunity and are criminals aren't going to take that opportunity? Of course they're going to take it. You know why? Because it's being offered to them by a place who will do whatever it can to make sure that the border stays open. And that's ridiculous. I think that there need to be some real consequences. How can there be leaders in America that want to do something like this and want to flout the law? It's just absolutely crazy. Anyways, what do you think about this? Thank you so much for watching.
Okay, so I got a 5-minute Penny and I got a 5-minute Steve Bannon. So we'll go from there.
And then they got sued and they said, oh, it exists, but we don't use it anymore.
Catch this one
so yet? I don't believe them as far as I can throw the dome off the dadgum Capitol, Benny. You got a kid who's got access to guns or has some simple knowledge of a firearm. He was programmed. You're exactly right. They programmed this kid, and Kristi Noem and Cash and Bongino and the rest are reporting the facts as they know them. The facts have been buried or burned, or whoever knew is either sitting on a beach somewhere and enjoying a fruity drink, or they're dead. I would suggest they're probably dead. And this is what happens. You claim it doesn't. They label me and you conspiracy theorists, but this is exactly what we see happen. And it happens in Washington. It's happening now. It's too deep. It is. And that's why I said, I wish they could go in and just fire everybody and then just start back. But you can't do that because of security. You're going to fire some good people that are clearly have their thumb in the dike on terrorists or what have you. And that's where we're at. That's why Cash Patel and Bongino are having such a hard time. Kristi Noem, either way, I don't give a rip either way. But I think at their level, that's what's happened. And that's I don't care. You can call me a lunatic, but when the CIA says this thing, we don't have this thing, and then they're brought in, their asses are brought into a court of law, and they say, well, we have it, but we don't use it anymore. Apparently somebody's using it. They know to contact these people. If you look at the Muslim radicals and how they recruited them, you remember they had the American Taliban or whatever, that kid they caught, and nobody talks about that anymore. Nobody even remembers it. I think his parents were Americans. They went to the Greek church or something. That kid was programmed. And you're right. They watched the crime scene. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, brother. If there's a murder out here, our sheriff's department's got that thing blocked off. They got a tarp over it and they've got it cleared. Nobody can get up on it. Nobody can contaminate the crime scene. This is Knox County Sheriff's Department and the city of Knoxville Police. And I guarantee you, my Blount County Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Wrong, all those people always close off the crime scene. This is casebook. And also one other thing, I sponsored some legislation dealing with cremation, so I know a little bit about when they bring a body in. There are probably laws in that state that they violated because they cremated that kid, I think, pretty quick. If I'm not correct, if you might.
11 days. Yes.
Okay. And if there was an investigation going on, there's probably something in the law that says you cannot dispose of the body. And I think you're right. I think all of it was washed, it was planned, and we just got lucky. I'm very close. I'm related to a Marine sniper. And I called him after that. I said, "What do you think?" He said, "Tim, I could have made that shot with iron sights, without a scope, with all that stuff. We just got damn lucky." God shined his favor upon us that day. If you don't believe that, I mean, the Bible talks about God knows if a sparrow falls from the sky or how many hairs are on your head. Dadgum, I believe it.
You are alleging that Thomas Crooks was groomed by some type of dark intel program, MK Ultra or otherwise, in order to commit on that day the act of an assassination.
I think so. I've said that all along. I've said that, and I'm glad somebody with Tucker's credibility, his ability to, and this my dog snores over there. Sorry for that. With his credibility has brought it out, because I yell this stuff all the time, and people just, it's just birching. But look at the history. Look at where we're at in this country. Look at the deep state, the sewer as it is, and it's disgusting. And this is what happens, dude, when 12% of the population goes to the polls. They know we're so vulnerable, and we have very, very few people in the lineup that could do the damage to them like Trump. Trump's right. They're not after him. They're after us. He's just standing in the way.
Okay. Thought that was a good interview. I got 2 5-minute ones, you guys, left. Or the 7 and the 4.
What I had said on the channel, but we've been talking about the people involved with the human trafficking, with the banks and stuff like that. And the aviation, the elites, the NGOs, and it just was a perfect place. For example, the Finger Lakes. You had the Cargill, you had the colleges, one is closed, you had the mental hospital, you had the underground tunnels, you had all the elites having houses look like specifically all over the lakes. But anyway, I wanted to touch base on something. So the answer to that question is, who else is involved? Where do people go when the government shut down? I mean, in this area where I'm staying right now, there are a lot of people asking for donations, so they're pushing the food banks. Well, I've never been had a background check when I volunteered at a food bank, and I started thinking, it could be anything. Who goes there? Single moms, children, illegals, but people they could take advantage of. And who supports a lot of these food banks? Churches. Well, the Catholic Church paid $4.4 billion for sexual encounters with children. And you have other churches as well. And where are a lot of these food banks or churches located? Off major highways. So started looking into that, and there are a lot of people that are, it's not just like sexual trafficking, it's also labor trafficking. So it's human trafficking and different layers. Jamaicans are waking up to the fact that some of them are angry at the United States because they're seeing what's happening. And something we haven't talked about is that China allegedly was pushed out of there, that the hurricane was pushed in, and that Israel has taken over a lot of that land. And a lot of the Israelis, or a group of them, have gone in there. It's a medical team. And Jamaicans have been saying, watch your organs. Well, what do they want? They want the black organs. and the darker blood because it's more potent to look younger. So were they taking out some of these adrenochrome labs on top of, there's just so many webs to this whole thing. But the Jamaicans are angry, and I don't want to mad at us, but I'm seeing a lot of videos where they're saying that, and they know about the smart cities. They're very awake. And like I said, very upset. And then lastly, what I wanted to talk about also is I waited on 5 Mormon ladies the other night that have all been walked away from the Mormon church, and they were talking to me about human trafficking, and Joseph Smith was a pedophile, and where I was from, Joseph Smith was married to 4 14-year-old girls and had kids, blah, blah, blah. So that was an interesting conversation. They actually asked me to sit down and have a glass of wine with them, which I didn't. I was waiting on them. But my next table, the girl was 30, but she used to work at Bohemian Grove. She was a server at the age of 17 at the restaurant. She said there was no name for it, but I had asked her I drilled her. She didn't remember anyone famous she waited on because she wasn't political, but she did say they had to sign NDAs. They were brought in from the drive where they parked, and they always came through the kitchen, the same spot. But she did say that I asked her what was the worst thing she heard when she was there, and she said the baby sacrifices. So she did hear that. And she said her friends that were escorts or like for suitcases and like, for people staying there, it was worse. They actually, some of the presidents or high ups asked some of the boys to come in their rooms. And that was like what she had heard. And then she had seen the owl. But again, she's 30. So what, 12, 13 years ago. So I just thought God is interesting. And then I waited on, a bunch of a Catholic family last night. So it was really good. There's been some great conversation. One other thing I want to talk about, I was talking with the family from our Catholics. I don't know if you know, but like Italy is procreating, I think 1.71 kids per family, whatever. So it amounts to like 300,000 babies a year, which is not a lot. So the population of Italians has gone down. But in Islam, these guys are able to marry as many women as possible, and they're averaging 4 children per family, per husband. So 16 kids per husband. So the reason why the Islam is really growing in the United States is because polygamy is allowed in Sharia law. So, well, we can go into that, but I just thought that's why the Christian faith is not growing as much, because everything in the United States was to push away procreation and away from God. And of course, to grow the Muslim. And I remember back when I first had my daughter, I read something in the paper how Islam was going to take over the United States. And it was like, she was born in 99. So it was, or 2000, sorry. So it was back along when the world was supposed to end back then. So they were telling us back then. So I think there's a lot coming out, and I still have faith, but man, it's Dearborn, Michigan, New York City, Minneapolis, it's pretty bad. But some of these videos I'm seeing, I don't know if they're real AI or they just actors. Kind of reminds me of when COVID happened and they were doing those dances. So I don't know, but I do know I have done the numbers, but we're going to post some things. I talked to a few of my admins about these food banks. It is big into it, but remember, it's slave labor too, not just trafficking. And the top 4 meats that I saw, or it was eggs, beef. Oh gosh, there were 2 more, chocolate and coffee. Those are the 4 where they've really taken advantage of the children at age 7. So there's a lot coming out right now. But again, perfect time for the shutdown. And now people have to reapply for SNAP to make sure these illegal immigrants are not getting free stuff. So was it really a bad thing? There's a lot to think about because this money has been going into the right hands. I know a lot of people are suffering. So I have something up my sleeve I might think about doing in December, but I got to see. Lot going through my mind right now. But anyway, hope you guys have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.
Okay, watch the lady there, water lady, and we haven't played her in a while. And the News Force lady is sick. She posted on her channel that she'll be back soon. So the last one is under 5.
Is it Judge Trupus out of Wisconsin? He's going to be in studio.
Yeah. Oh, Trupus is fantastic. He's one of the defendants.
Trupus is coming to town. He's going to be in studio Tuesday, Wednesday. I want to get all the stories about these people because they've been tortured for a couple of years and spent an enormous amount of money.
100%. And Trupus actually in Wisconsin, prior to coming up with the alternate electors plan, he actually went to the attorney general and they had a meeting, a hearing, whatever. And he said, hey, we believe that we need to preserve the electors' votes. He went and told them, hey, this is what we're going to do. Said this to the attorney general. Let us know if you have any problems with it, because we believe that these steps need to be taken in order to preserve Donald Trump's ability to cast these votes later. And the attorney general approved it. He said, there was a memo somewhere floating around that's okay. There's nothing illegal about this. Go ahead and do it. And it was because the attorney general approved it that Trupus said, okay, this is what we're going to go forward and do. And then lo and behold, they turn around and indict Trupus and Mike Roman and Ken Chesebro. Not even the electors. I mean, the Wisconsin case reeks to high heaven. But back to the pardon issue, the way the pardons could actually impact the state cases, if you want to, go down that road, is kind of what they were talking about in the clip, that these are not actually state charges. These should be federal charges. It's a federal election. Federal law supersedes state law on this issue. And so the pardon, the bigger issue of what's actually being charged really is a federal, even though they're state charges, it is a federal offense. And so that pardon should apply to this case, to these state charges. It's an argument to be made. I don't know, I don't know how anybody was going to raise it, but normally a federal pardon, a presidential pardon, wouldn't impact the state case, but there actually is an argument to be made here.
And why is that?
Because it's a federal election, and the heart of what they're doing is a federal election.
Well, but then they would be admitting that they charge you illegitimately because it's. I mean, the people in Arizona are not going to agree to that. The state, the AG out there is out of control.
No, the AGs and Fannie Willis they will all oppose it, but the judge could agree with you.
Yes.
So it's a motion that they might bring.
Tina Peters.
Yes.
Why is she still why is she in a state prison?
Because of the state of Colorado.
I know, but aren't they saying now that the machines there are problems with the machines?
Yeah.
You've got the congressman from Texas saying that now that some guys bought them that used to be a Republican state election official, that Dominion machines can't be used anymore.
The Liberty vote. Yeah.
So it's Crockett's out there saying you can't use it.
Right.
Isn't it time? And I hear that that Maine Justice has told the BOP make arrangements with Colorado authorities to transfer her to a federal facility, probably to be a witness potentially in a federal case. But Colorado's refusing. I hear today that I think EPA or somebody's sending money to Colorado. Should we not just cut off? Should we talk to the president, have him cut off all money to Colorado until she's released? Is she a political prisoner?
100% she's a political prisoner. They're holding her hostage. I mean, she's a Gold Star mom. She's in her 70s. She was an elected official. This was an absolute sham trial. They manufactured these convictions in order to score political points for their base in Colorado. And a lot of the information that's coming out, she was right. Like you mentioned, a lot of her concerns about the machines have been proven to be valid. Her concerns
and Democrats are saying now Jasmine Crockett is one of the highest visibility.
Exactly.
She's thinking of running for the Senate, and she's saying, hey, Texas can't use any of these machines. I'm not sure they use them anyway. She says the machines ought to be banned nationwide. You got Jasmine Crockett, the most radical, saying that. How's Tina Peters not sprung from jail?
Yeah, no, I mean, Colorado should be.
How bad? Is it bad as Arizona?
I actually think Colorado's worse. I mean,
what about Michigan? Michigan bad. So I think that's a good one. Okie doke. We made it. 2-hour mark for a change. So everybody have a good weekend if I don't see you tomorrow night at 6. Unless something breaks through. So thanks, Kay, Ariella, Ariel, Chico's. Yep. So yeah, I think everything okay, and stay safe, stay strong, keep the faith. Never give up. Signing off till tomorrow night, you guys, unless something develops. Signing off, Chico and Dude.